It's hard to believe what's happening. For most people, it's unimaginable that the world's most powerful figures could be involved in such things. But in the U.S., it's different. A large portion of society believes the elites are morally bankrupt. American culture is far more permissive, and what seems impossible to us has long been normalized there. Human trafficking, sexual slavery, occult rituals. These things exist, and those at the top often behave like predators, lacking empathy and contemptuous of human life. We're witnessing the breakdown of government institutions and possibly the nation itself. This is a betrayal of American values. It's time to stop letting politicians dictate what they want and start telling them what we demand. Ukrainian and Russian media often mock or downplay the Epstein files, but few talk about the shockwave they caused. Inside the U.S., the country was already divided. Now the public wants answers. The real question isn't whether Jeffrey Epstein was a criminal who exploited minors. The real question is, why did he do it? On whose behalf? With whose money? And the horror isn't that the world learned about elite crimes. It's that the West has no other elites. They're all implicated. This is a deep ideological crisis, a turning point. Now let's talk about Ukraine, a country fighting and dying for Western values. Millions of men gave their lives for ideals that turned out to be a cover for something far darker. That's a painful truth. For years, Ukraine was steeped in a culture obsessed with sex, hatred, especially toward Russia, and mysticism. You see it in literature, media, and pop culture. Then it turns out that Yermak, the man who effectively ran the country, was into cemetery rituals and occultism. Surprised? The nation elected an atheist president who made godlessness the new norm, canceled religious holidays, and targeted churches and clergy. What's left is a country without ideology. Russophobia isn't an ideology. There's no faith, no dream, just leaders accused of cruelty. What kind of future does that create? It's hard for a normal person to believe that the powerful could be capable of such things. But child trafficking is real, and we must talk about it. Of all the conspiracies, this is the one people resist the most. Even among my friends, some say it's all rumors. But much has already been proven, and the truth is far worse than we're shown. When people talk about evil, they ask, "Do you see yourself as the devil?" No, I have a mirror. But it's a serious question. For believers, it's simpler. If there's a God, there's a devil. Darkness thrives where faith is absent. Wealth corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when it comes to global elites, the scale of corruption is terrifying, because for them, there's no such thing as too far. Not everyone with power becomes corrupt. But if someone lacks a higher purpose or fear of God, they begin to feel omnipotent, and they test the limits again and again. The Roman Empire collapsed for many reasons, but the key one was moral decay among its elites. Historians like Gibbon noted how leaders fell into vice, laws became oppressive, and abuse of power weakened the state. Senators and emperors drowned in luxury and corruption, ignoring the people. Tacitus wrote that absolute power turns rulers into tyrants and destroys the foundations of a republic. Today, the West is repeating that mistake. The Epstein files revealed that both political parties are involved. That's why the resistance is so fierce. That's why millions of documents were dumped to dilute the story. But the flood is too strong. Republicans who demanded transparency suddenly appeared in the same files as their opponents. Democrats struck back using their own tactics. And this is just the beginning. Protests in the U.S. are growing. Radical groups haven't even mobilized yet to drown out the wave of revelations. Bombing Iran won't be enough. Something bigger is needed. But Iran isn't Venezuela. An aircraft carrier could sink. Americans could be dragged into a bloody war. So what values justify all this? The parallel is clear, both Rome and modern. America suffer from elites who've lost their moral compass. The gap between rulers and the people is widening. Trust is vanishing. Collapse is becoming a real possibility. Western elites are desperately trying to freeze an unjust global order. They've grown fat off others for centuries, but the vampire ball is ending. So what does Russia offer the world? After the Paris Olympics, after the Epstein files, after everything happening in the U.S., the answer is clear: normalcy, family, the right to speak truth, freedom from fake tolerance. But no one will hand us that normalcy. We'll have to fight for it. Many media outlets and influencers are trying to bury the topic, mock it, or change the subject. Look at those who stay silent about the Epstein files and ask yourself why. There's even a theory. Why did the blow land on Prince Andrew? Among hundreds of thousands of photos, there's one where he leans toward a girl. It's a warning to the elites, a signal we can keep going. We decide who gets named. It's a tool of pressure ahead of global change. Friends, we all need patience in these turbulent times. Subscribe to MRX, hit like if you haven't yet, and most importantly, leave a comment. Until next time, the mysteries that were solved but only grew stranger. Some mysteries end with answers, others end with silence. But the most unsettling ones end with explanations that feel wrong the moment you hear them. These are the cases where the official story exists. The files are closed, and the world is told to move on. Yet every detail whispers that the truth is still out there, buried beneath something carefully arranged. These are the mysteries that were solved, but instead of clarity, they left behind a deeper, colder kind of uncertainty, the kind that lingers long after the headlines fade, the kind that makes you question not just what happened, but why someone wanted the story to end so quickly. 1. When the official version collapses under its own weight, every such case begins the same way, a confident announcement that everything has been figured out. But the moment you look closer, the explanation starts to unravel. Sometimes it's a timeline that doesn't match the physical world. A person who supposedly walked miles after an injury that should have made movement impossible. A phone that sends messages long after it should have been dead. A witness who changes their story in ways that feel rehearsed, not remembered. In other cases, the contradictions are physical. Search teams sweep an area for days, using drones, dogs, ZPZ, and thermal imaging. Nothing. Then, weeks later, the missing person is found. Exactly, they're placed in a position that defies the logic of decomposition, weather, and time. The official explanation blames oversight, but the people who were there know better. They know what they saw and what they didn't. Digital traces often make things worse. Messages appear that sound almost but not quite like the missing person. The phrasing is off. The punctuation is wrong. The tone feels artificial, as if someone tried to imitate a voice they didn't fully understand. Yet these messages are accepted as proof of life, even when experts quietly point out the inconsistencies. When the official version contradicts the evidence, the explanation becomes part of the mystery itself. 2. When the explanation is more disturbing than the mystery, sometimes the truth is stranger than the disappearance. A case is declared an accident, but the victim's behavior in the days before suggests fear, real, tangible fear. They change routines. They avoid certain people. They leave cryptic notes or half-finished messages that hint at something closing in. Then the explanation arrives, neat and polished. Too neat. There are cases where the missing person returns, but something about them is wrong. They avoid eye contact. They refuse to talk about where they were. Their stories contradict themselves. Their families say they seem like a different person entirely, and yet the authorities insist everything is normal. There are cases where the solution feels scripted, as if someone needed the story to end quickly, as if the truth was inconvenient, dangerous, or simply too strange to acknowledge. These are the cases where the explanation doesn't bring comfort. It brings dread. 3. When a case is closed too quickly, speed can be a warning sign. Some mysteries are wrapped up in hours, long before the evidence has even been processed. A single statement becomes the foundation of the entire narrative. A single assumption becomes the official truth. Witnesses disappear. Files become restricted. Surveillance footage is missing, corrupted, or inexplicably unavailable for the exact window of time that matters most. Sometimes the media pushes one version of events with unusual intensity, repeating it until it becomes the only version people remember. Meanwhile, the details that don't fit are quietly ignored. When a case is closed before it has even begun, it raises a question more chilling than the mystery itself. Who needed this story to end? 4. Digital footprints that lead nowhere. Modern mysteries leave digital shadows, and those shadows often expose the cracks in the official story. Phones that move after their owners are gone. Accounts that log in at impossible times. Messages that appear to be written by someone trying too hard to sound casual. Videos where the missing person behaves like they're reading from a script, not speaking freely. Sometimes the digital trail feels like a cry for help. Other times it feels like bait, something left behind to mislead. Anyone who tries to follow, the deeper you dig, the more the digital world begins to look like a maze built to confuse, not reveal. 5. Coincidences too precise to be coincidences. Every case has coincidences, but in these stories the coincidences are too perfect, too aligned, too convenient. A camera that fails at the exact moment it was needed, a witness who moves away the day after giving a statement, a crucial piece of evidence that appears or disappears at the perfect time, a meeting that was never supposed to happen, but did just hours before the disappearance. Individually, each coincidence can be explained. Together, they form a pattern that feels intentional. 6. Why these mysteries haunt us. These stories don't frighten because they're supernatural. They frighten because they feel real. They expose the fragile boundary between what we're told and what actually happened. When the official version doesn't match the evidence, trust erodes. When the explanation feels rehearsed, doubt grows. When a case is closed too quickly, fear takes root. These mysteries linger because they suggest something hidden, something just out of reach, something that someone didn't want us to see. 7. The unfinished ending. The most disturbing part of these cases is their false sense of closure. The files say solved, but the story refuses to end. The unanswered questions multiply. The contradictions deepen. The truth feels close enough to touch, yet impossibly far away. These are the mysteries that stay with us, the ones that whisper, the ones that refuse to die, the ones that remind us that sometimes the most terrifying thing is not the unknown, but the explanation we were told to believe. What if I told you that hidden in plain sight, there's a code so powerful, so ancient, so deeply woven into the fabric of reality, that one of the greatest minds in human history believed it could unlock the secrets of the universe? Nikola Tesla once said, "If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have the key to the universe." But what did he really mean? Why these numbers? And why was Tesla, a man of science, obsessed with them? Today we're pulling back the curtain on the mystery of 369, the code Tesla believed could reveal the architecture of reality itself. Chapter 1. Tesla, the man outside of time. Before Tesla was a car brand, he was a visionary who lived decades, maybe centuries, ahead of his time. While Edison fought for patents, Tesla dreamed of lighting the entire Earth. While others struggled with electricity, Tesla imagined wireless energy towers, global communication, and technology that wouldn't exist until long after his death. He gave us alternating current, remote controls, neon lighting, early X-ray concepts, and the foundations of Wi-Fi. But behind the inventions was a mystic. Tesla didn't just study the physical world. He studied patterns, vibrations, frequencies, and the hidden mathematics behind nature. And at the center of his worldview were 3 numbers, 3, 6, and 9. Chapter 2, Numbers as Frequencies. To most people, numbers are symbols. To Tesla, they were vibrations, living components of a cosmic language. He believed that everything in the universe is energy vibrating at specific frequencies. Matter, sound, light, thought, all of it is vibration. So why 3, 6, and 9? Because Tesla believed these numbers weren't part of ordinary mathematics. They were part of a higher system, a blueprint behind the physical world. Chapter 3, The Vortex Code. There's a mathematical model known as vortex mathematics, which describes energy not as straight lines, but as spirals, the same spirals we see in galaxies, hurricanes, seashells, and DNA. In this system, doubling numbers creates a repeating loop. 1 gives 2, gives 4, gives 8, gives 7, gives 5, gives back to 1 point. But 3, 6, and 9, they don't appear in the loop at all. They exist outside the physical cycle, like a higher dimension guiding it. 3 doubles to 6. 6 doubles to 12 gives 1 plus 2 equals 3. The loop repeats endlessly. And 9? 9 is the anomaly, the constant, the number that always returns to itself. 9 gives 18, gives 27, gives 36, gives 45, gives 54. 1 plus 8 equals 9, 2 plus 7 equals 9, 3, 6 equals 9. No matter how far you go, 9 always comes back home. Some researchers call 9 the number of enlightenment, the origin point, the infinite. Chapter 4, The Ancients' Knee. Across ancient cultures, the number 9 appears again and again. Norse mythology, 9 realms. Hinduism, 9 forms of the goddess Durga. Chinese tradition, 9 is the number of heaven. The Great Pyramids, groups of 3, aligned with the stars. Coincidence? Or a message passed down through time? Even in mathematics, 9 behaves like a ghost, influencing without interfering. Add 9 to any number, reduce the digits, and you return to the original number. It's as if 9 amplifies reality without changing it. Chapter 5, The Code in Nature. Look around. Flower petals follow Fibonacci numbers. Honeycombs form perfect hexagons, 6 sides. Snowflakes grow in 6-fold symmetry. Galaxies spiral according to the golden race you see. DNA twists in a double helix shaped by the same mathematics. Nature follows patterns. Patterns follow frequency, and frequency follows mathematics. At the center of this cosmic choreography are 3, 6, and 9 point. Chapter 6, The Music of the Universe. Sound is vibration. Music is math expressed through frequency. Octaves double. 110 hertz gives 220 hertz, gives 440 hertz. Solfeggio frequencies, ancient tones believed to heal and harmonize include 396 hertz, 639 hertz, 963 hertz. Again, 3, 6, 9 point. In cymatics experiments, where sound frequencies shape sand or water into geometric patterns, these frequencies create the most complex, symmetrical, almost alive structures. It's as if the universe is trying to speak through them. Chapter 7, The Human Connection. Your body echoes the code. 3 major parts of the brain, 33 vertebrae in the spine, energy centers, chakras, where the 3rd, 6th, and 9th levels relate to intuition and higher consciousness. Even time itself is structured around 3s. Past, present, future. Seconds, minutes, hours. 12-hour clocks gives 1 plus 2 equals 3. 60 seconds gives 6 plus 0 equals 6. The code is everywhere. Chapter 8, Tesla's Personal Rituals. Tesla didn't just study 369. He lived by it. He walked around buildings 3 times before entering. He demanded 18 napkins at meals. 1 plus 8 equals 9. He stayed only in hotel rooms divisible by 3. These weren't superstitions. They were attempts to align himself with what he believed was the frequency of truth. He was tuning his mind like a radio, trying to think the way the universe thinks. Chapter 9, What IT Means for You Say. We live in a world of noise, stress, distraction, chaos. But beneath all of it lies a rhythm, a hidden order, a universal song. 3, 6, and 9 are reminders that reality isn't random. It's structured, intentional, intelligent. Maybe Tesla was right. Maybe understanding these numbers doesn't just unlock science. Maybe it unlocks consciousness. Maybe it reconnects us to the truth that we are not separate from the universe. We are the universe. We are vibration. We are energy. And in that realization lies freedom. Outro. Closing line. 369 isn't just a code. It's a key. The only question now is, what will you do with it? For 3,000 years, until Alexander the Great's armies conquered it in the 4th century BC, ancient Egypt was the most important civilization in the world. This week's Ancient Top 10, Secrets of Egypt. The list is ranked by how each entry has shaped our understanding of ancient Egypt. At number 10, the Great Sphinx. The Great Sphinx sits at the foot of the pyramids near Cairo. It is the largest statue ever, carved out of a single piece of stone. 240 feet long, 60 feet high, and wrapped in riddles. In the 1950s, New evidence further put into question the age of the Sphinx. There are water erosion marks on the body of the Sphinx caused by rain, but that level of rain hasn't been around Egypt for over 9,000 years. If these erosion marks were made 9,000 years ago, long before this part of Africa was a desert, then Egyptian, civilization is far older than previously thought. Number 9 on our countdown can't match the wise Sphinx in age, but in height there was no contest. It's the Pharaoh's lighthouse. This is Alexandria, Egypt. In the 3rd century BC, it was one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. It was built around a deep natural harbor where the Nile enters the sea. On an island in the harbor, at the end of a man-made causeway 3/4 of a mile along, an incredible lighthouse was constructed to guide ships safely in. At 400 feet high, the Pharos may have been taller than the Statue of Liberty. The Pharos stood for over 1,500 years. For all that time, there was nothing like it. There's never been anything like the Pharos before, or since, for that matter. 2,000 years later, it's still the greatest lighthouse ever built. So much so, the word Pharos in many languages still means lighthouse. The secrets of the Pharos may never be fully understood, but there are even bigger secrets, including the raunchiest papyrus ever unearthed. Coming in at number 8 is a scandalous find, the Turin Erotic Papyrus. At the beginning of the 19th century, a local farmer near the Valley of the Kings stumbled across an intriguing earthenware vessel. There was something hidden inside. It was an ancient papyrus which shook the world of Egyptology to the core. And this is it. These fragments of ancient scroll, over 8 feet long, are 3,000 years old. It's called the Turin Erotic Papyrus because it's kept here, in a museum in Turin in Italy, and it's recommended for adults only. This material is considered so vulgar that we can only show snippets. I've seen quite a lot of ancient erotic art in my time, but for me the Turin Erotic Papyrus is quite frankly jaw-dropping. Basically, anything that can happen is happening, and this is why it makes it to the ancient top 10 list. It changes and humanizes our view of ancient Egypt. This scroll has given us more insight into the ancient Egyptians than any other discovery I can think of. With this perspective, we now know that as spiritual as the Egyptians were, they were also as human as us, with the same desires as us, and I find that kind of comforting. At number 7, a more G-rated secret. The unfinished obelisk, one of the most amazing engineering feats from ancient Egypt. Obelisks were huge stone structures. They were monoliths found all over Egypt. They were absolutely incredible. Obelisks were giant pillars pointing upwards toward the sun god, Re, and a quarry here in Aswan in southern Egypt is the biggest obelisk of all, but it's still attached to the bedrock. If it had been finished and erected, it would have been nearly as high as Niagara Falls. It earns its place on the ancient top 10 list because it would have been the greatest solid obelisk in history, reinforcing our view of ancient Egyptians as master builders. This is Giza. In 1954, there was an amazing find here, an entire ship buried in the desert, and it's our number 6 secret, the Khufu ship. The ancient ship was buried around 2500 BC in a pit carved out of the solid bedrock, 143 feet long and just under 20 feet wide, now in a specially built museum on the site at Giza. It's the world's oldest intact ship, What was particularly amazing about it was how this ship was built. There were no fixtures or fittings. It was all held together with beautifully crafted joints and tied together with rope. It was a sleek, beautiful design and completely. But why was it buried in the middle of the desert? What was it for? The Khufu ship never actually went to sea because it was a funeral barge. The ship was meant to transport the dead Pharaoh up to his place in the heavens. It absolutely transformed our understanding of seafaring 4,500 years ago, and that's why it's in my top 10. But at number 5 on our list is something that was an underground secret, the size of a mountain. Early in the 19th century, a young Egyptian boy guided some archaeologists to a rock face near his village. He had found some unusual carvings exposed by the moving sands. The archaeologists returned and began to dig. What emerged was one of the most amazing buildings in the world. It was carved straight into the rock face, and it was the height of a 10-story building. Abu Simbel, a huge temple from the 13th century B.C. Suitably, it's one of the greatest monuments in ancient Egypt because it's dedicated to one of the greatest pharaohs. The pharaoh was Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. He was the most powerful pharaoh ever and reigned for over 70 years. The whole thing was made in just about 20 years, and of course this is long before the age of modern machinery. We're still trying to figure out just exactly how they did it. Abu Simbel earns its place on the list for revealing the power of ancient Egypt and the power of the pharaohs. Now we're into the top 4, and it's time for a shocking secret that's become a symbol of ancient Egypt. A staple of horror films. Ask anyone what comes to mind when you say ancient Egypt, and I would bet you that they say mummies. Mummies are the preserved bodies of the dead. The ancient Egyptians believed that preserving the body meant it would live on in the afterlife. They believed that after death the soul left the body, but that at night it would return to it to receive new life. That's why the body had to be preserved. Mummification was an incredibly intricate procedure. All of the organs were removed with surgical precision, including the brain, which was extracted through the nose. They would soak the bodies in vats of chemicals to dry them out and preserve the flesh, and the body was packed with salt. This was a key to preserving it. While mummies have shaped our view of how Egyptians looked at the afterlife, our next secret helped to decode everything about the land of the living in ancient Egypt. The key that unlocked ancient Egypt, the Rosetta Stone, it was because of this rock that experts were able to understand hieroglyphics. The Rosetta Stone has 3 bands of writing, one above the other. When it was found, classical scholars could read the ancient Greek. It translated as a list of good works done by the pharaoh, and it was the name of the pharaoh, Ptolemy, that eventually provided the breakthrough needed. Because his name was uncovered in the hieroglyphs, the fact that the same information is written in all 3 languages means that we could work out what the hieroglyphs say, and from that you can understand the whole of ancient Egyptian history. Suddenly, all the hieroglyphs in Egypt became readable. The Rosetta Stone revealed a huge amount, despite being small in stature. Just missing out on the top slot is one of the greatest building projects of all time. Coming in at number 2, it's pyramids. Ancient pyramids are found all over the globe, from Central and South America to the Middle East, even all the way to Asia, but no one built them on the same scale or sophistication as the Egyptians. As this map shows, there's a lot more pyramids in Egypt than the 3 famous ones at Giza. In fact, there are over 100 ancient pyramids still standing all over Egypt. The original pyramid architect, Imhotep, was so important to the Egyptians they made him into a god. The pyramids were a truly incredible achievement and the most iconic symbol of ancient Egypt. Even today, pyramids are everywhere, even on the dollar bill. But the next item on our countdown had its glory hidden for over 3,000 years. The most magnificent, the greatest, most extraordinary secret of all. Coming in at number 1 are some of the treasures discovered in one of the most amazing archaeological discoveries in history. It's the treasures of the tomb of Tutankhamun. The treasure was beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Jewelry, 2 thrones, 6 war chariots, everything the young Pharaoh would need in the next life, and even more. Inside this golden coffin was an even greater treasure. It was the face of a 3,000-year-old Pharaoh. It was an amazing secret of Egypt, now revealed. The incredible golden death mask of Tutankhamun. Tut's death mask was surrounded by precious stone. The stunning blue is lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, quartz, and obsidian in the eyes that came across the Mediterranean. It weighs 24 pounds because of this undreamt-of secret find. We can get a true feeling for the might of the pharaohs and the power and the glory of ancient Egypt. There has been no civilization like Egypt before or since. Its incredible buildings and treasures can't be matched. It's a land of mystery and a land of secrets, and it will continue to amaze and astonish for millennia to come. 7 mysterious disappearances, the unexplainable tales of vanishing acts. What the hell happened to your parents? That's the question that's been gnawing at me. Sure, everyone messes up now and then, but this is downright mind-boggling. Were they out shopping for a new TV or what? If I found myself in your shoes, I'd be sweating bullets right now. As the authorities scrambled to piece together the puzzle, I'd be bracing myself for a world of pain at home. I just can't wrap my head around it. And here you are, casually handling the annual NFL draft like it's a walk in the park. Now, let's dive into the spine-chilling realm of disappearances. They haunt us like nothing else. Death? Yeah, we can make sense of that. Crimes? Those get investigated. But when a person just vanishes into thin air, all that's left is a gaping void of confusion. In this video, we're unearthing the most bizarre, hair-raising cases that are so real, they'll send chills down your spine. We'll present the facts, the oddities, the wild theories, and then you can draw your own conclusions. First up, the infamous Flight MH370. On March 8, 2014, a passenger jet took off from Kuala Lumpur, bound for Beijing. But just 40 minutes in, bam, communication drops like a rock. The pilot's last words, "Good night, Malaysian 370, and then absolute silence. The plane took a mysterious detour, flew for hours, and then just poof, gone. The strangeness. No wreckage, no bodies, and the black boxes are as quiet as a grave. The theories? Catastrophe, hijacking, pilot suicide, or some crazy external interference. But none of them explain it all. MH370 remains one of aviation's biggest enigmas. Next, let's talk about the haunting case of Eliza Lam. This young woman checked into the notorious Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Her last known footage? An elevator video that's straight up eerie. She's pressing buttons, peeking out into the hallway, hiding, making bizarre hand gestures. A few days later, her lifeless body was discovered in a locked water tank on the roof. The oddities? The tank was sealed, access to the roof was restricted, and there were no signs of foul play. How the hell did she end up there? Nobody knows. The theories are a dime a dozen, but the answers? Nowhere to be found. Moving on to the mysterious disappearance of pilot Frederick Valentich. This 20-year-old aviator was flying over the base strait in Australia when he reported, "There's some sort of object hovering above me. It's not an airplane." And just like that, communication was severed. His plane? Never found. The oddities? Witnesses claimed to see a green light in the sky. No wreckage ever turned up, and the recordings spark endless debate. The theories range from a tragic accident to an encounter with an unidentified flying object. But where's the proof? Now, let's delve into the bizarre case of the Tamam Shud mystery. On an Australian beach, a man's body was discovered with no identification and no signs of violence. In his pocket, a scrap of paper that read Tamam Shud, meaning the end. This phrase was ripped from a rare edition of the book, Rubaiyat, and guess what? They later found the book, which contained a cryptic code. The oddities? No one could identify the man. The cause of death remains a mystery, and that code still unsolved. The theories? Spying, suicide, or murder, but none have been confirmed. Next, we have the chilling disappearance of the Jameson family. This trio set out to check out a plot of land and then just vanished. Their car was found days later, filled with phones, a wallet, a cat, and a staggering $32,000 in cash. It took 4 years to find their bodies in the woods. The oddities? The cash was untouched, no signs of violence on the bodies, and the last recorded footage shows the family acting strangely. The theories range from cult involvement to foul play, but evidence? Nowhere in sight. Then we have Larry Kiss, the missing student. He stepped out of his dorm and vanished between two buildings. No cameras caught him, no traces left behind. The oddities? An extensive search of the area turned up nothing, no clothes, no belongings, not even a body. The theories? Escape, accident, or abduction. But again, nothing confirmed. And finally, let's unravel the mystery of Brian Schaefer. This medical student walked into a bar with friends, and the cameras captured him entering, but guess what? They didn't catch him leaving. The bar had only one exit. The oddities? He couldn't have slipped out unnoticed. His phone kept ringing for months, and no body was ever found. The police insist there are no hidden exits, but Brian vanished as if he'd been erased from existence. In all these stories, there's one eerie common thread. At some point, logic just goes out the window. People disappear in places where it seems downright impossible. The theories are plentiful, but the evidence? Zilch. Each case serves as a stark reminder that the world is far stranger than we dare to imagine. So which disappearance do you think is the most mind-boggling? Drop the number of the story in the comments. If you crave more dark facts, investigations, and real-life mysteries, hit that subscribe button. This has been RX